sister is hungry. She's no less than me. While she has not eaten, nobody is free.
I am not warm while my brother is cold. I am never free where my neighbor is sold. I am still hungry till my sister is fed. My brother is cold, but I am not dead. My family is here, wherever they're from. Each someone's child in need of someone.
My family is sleeping on a borrowed floor until we're all home. We can do more.
I am not warm while my brother is cold. I am never free where my neighbor is sold. I am still hungry till my sister is fed. My brother is cold, but I am not
My brother won't freeze with blankets to spare until all are home. We all have to share. My sister won't starve while there is bread. We are not done till we are all fed.
Hello, friends. I hope that you were enjoying that. Everybody hear me okay? Hey, back in the old studio. My name is Joe Rawlins. I'm First Herald of the Church of Korihor, a spiritual congregation for atheists, agnostics, and other people, allies. Atheists, agnostics, and allies. That's what I've been saying lately. What do you guys think? Allies to the atheists. Welcome, brothers and sisters who are out there and believe, like we do, that a God who kills people is not good. Can we believe that a God who kills people, especially to punish them for crimes as simple as being poor, is not a good God? In fact, when I was a Christian once upon a time, hello, Diana, it's good to see you. And when I was a Christian, most of my life at one point, well, half of my life, I was a Mormon. I believe Mormons are Christians. This is the second time this week I've been defending that here on our channel. I thought that Christ wouldn't kill anyone if he didn't have to. And I thought that Christ certainly wouldn't kill people for being poor. But we live in a day and age where it seems that Christians don't really believe that anymore. And I'm a little bit concerned. So today, I wanted to talk a little bit about scratching our conscience about a massacre that's happening in this country. And some of you have heard me talk about this before, but we're going to keep talking about it and what we can do about it. And I want us all to remember to take a moment and be conscious of the human beings surrounding us, and that we are capable of handling hard things, hard facts. The hard facts goes like this. About 8 months ago, I gave a godless sermon called America, We Have a Problem. And in that godless sermon, I brought up some numbers that really hit hard for a lot of us Korah whores. We're godless people, atheists and agnostics, my congregation, our congregation, about how in 2017, the government rolled back SNAP benefits for millions of Americans. And at the time, it was sold to us as routing out fraud in the food stamp system. SNAP and food stamps are the same thing. And the next year, though we didn't know it yet, we wouldn't know it until the pandemic started, that following year, 2018, more Americans died of hunger than any year on record. More than 9,000 Americans died in 2018 from lack of sufficient caloric intake or from lack of hydration, from dehydration, which every Boy Scout, every nurse, every human being should know. While thirst and hunger can both kill you, thirst will do it a lot quicker. Dehydration will do it a lot faster. More people in our country died in 1 year than any year on record with the CDC. Now, granted, the CDC has only been charged by Congress, if you can believe it, since the 1990s with reporting to the public how many people die of various causes in our country. Every year, that number has gone up since 2018. Never before had we seen more than 9,000 people, 9,300, who died of hunger in 1 year in this country where we throw about half of our food away. And 2019 was even higher. 2020, we don't know because of comorbidity with the pandemic. 2021, even higher. By 2022, that annual death toll from hunger had more than doubled to well over 20,000 people a year. And it's been going up ever since until in 2025. Again, like I said, roughly 8 months ago, I gave this godless sermon, America, We Have a Problem, in which I had not known that this was the case already. But I had said during that sermon that it was only a matter of time before the new Trump administration that had just been inaugurated stopped the CDC from reporting the numbers at the same pace that they had been reporting it since 2020, when government gave extra funding to the CDC so that they could keep track of what was actually killing Americans. And the thing is that they had done that, of course, as you remember, because they wanted to end the government shutdowns. They wanted to end the government quarantines, forced quarantines, and social distancing. They wanted to prove that COVID-19 was not as bad as it was being claimed. That's what they wanted. But what they accidentally ended up doing was accelerating the reporting from the CDC, which usually takes its sweet time because they don't have nearly enough funding to keep these numbers being published and being published and being published on a regular basis. So in order to in order to keep with the law, they had to start, they needed more funding to report more often than once a year. And so the government gave them extra funding, and they kept using it and kept using it and kept using it to show what was actually killing Americans every month, if possible, or at least more frequently than once a year. And in 2025, I proved somewhat prophetic when I said it's only a matter of time now that the second Trump administration is in office before they tell the CDC to stop publishing that data. And it turns out that's exactly what happened. And in 2025, we still don't have the numbers from the CDC on what kills Americans officially in 2025. But suffice it to say, none of the policies attributed to this massive rise in hunger have changed. In fact, in November of last year, you remember the SNAP crisis when they started rolling back SNAP benefits in November of last year. Since then, watchdog groups have been warning that food insecurity, not necessarily deaths from hunger, we still don't have that information from the government officially, but food insecurity being reported in America is now higher than it has ever been, including, by the way, food insecurity for children. It was a crisis before when it was predominantly senior citizens, Black and Indigenous people of color, and people in red states primarily, who were feeling the weight of these SNAP benefits. Now food insecurity has reached a crisis that is completely unprecedented, and our government is doing everything it can to keep us from knowing about it. This is a crisis. I wanted to just bring something to your consciousness here, and I want to take a moment before I get into this next part, because I said a thing this week on a post in the new Korahor app, which again, we're still trying to get rolled out there. It's run into a couple of roadblocks, but we're getting there. But now I have the ability to we have the ability to post Korahor app posts in social media. It doesn't look perfect, but it works. And I had posted this, and a couple of people had contacted me after that and said, "What are you talking about? What is this that you're saying now, Joe?" And I had said this. Let me explain more fully here. In 1945, the United States built 2 bombs to drop on Japan. One was called Little Boy, which was dropped on Hiroshima. The other was called Fat Man, which was dropped on Nagasaki. The Hiroshima bombing killed over 100,000 people in its initial blast. Nagasaki, we don't know for sure, but it was somewhere between 40,000 people and 75,000 people who died in one blast, in the initial blast. Now, at the time, there was no way for them to know for sure how the effect of radiation poisoning and radiation disease over the long term would take even more lives. And after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, well, we learned, and it was thousands more who died from radiation poisoning. But in the initial blast itself was the motivation behind taking a weapon that had been predominantly invented by the Germans and turning it around and turning it on the Japanese in order to compel them to surrender. And you think about it, though, they didn't need 2 bombs. One bomb would have shown the world, Hiroshima, would have shown the world that America is cruel to its enemies. So cruel that we would take a weapon, one munition, invented by our enemies initially, perfect it, and then turn around and use it on other people. Hiroshima showed the world that if you are our enemy, America can choose to annihilate you, men, women, children, with impunity. Hiroshima showed that we could do it and that we were willing to do it. Nagasaki was meant to show the world and show history that we could keep on doing it and keep on doing it and keep on doing it until our enemies surrender. The objective, of course, was to get Emperor Hirohito to surrender. But what we did is we showed the world that Americans have the capacity to be as cruel as the worst enemies you can imagine. And we have the technology, we have the money, we have the development, but most importantly, we have the willingness, we have the killer heart to do it. If in our minds it justifies to ourselves that we're saving our own lives, our own children's lives, or that we're overall reducing the death toll or whatever other logic we can come up with or use. But it was meant to show the world we're professional killers on a scale that the world has never seen. I want you to think about that number I told you a minute ago, between 40,000 and 75,000. And consider what I said just a few minutes ago, just a couple minutes ago. 9,000, more than 9,000 people in 2018. More than 10,000 every year since. We don't even know for 2025. In 6 years of this policy, as many Americans, it just makes me so damn mad. This policy has killed as many Americans with hunger as the atomic bomb killed in Nagasaki in 6 years. By the end of 2028, this policy will be a decade old. And at the current rate, as best as we can tell, because again, the government isn't giving us the full numbers anymore. They're hiding it. If it is continuing to accelerate at this pace, by 2028, that death toll will be as high as Hiroshima and growing. And we don't even know yet how the SNAP crisis from back at the end of last year has affected those numbers up until now. And we likely won't know that for years at this rate. This is a crisis. All while Paula White and Christian pastors gathered at the White House and put their hands on the man who signed the laws that made these policies and the executive orders that made these policies go into effect, and claimed the MAGA movement in the name of Jesus Christ. And here this Easter Sunday, no, I haven't forgotten. We are looking around at a world where people gather to celebrate the passion of Jesus Christ and his sacrifice that, according to the Bible, was supposed to be in legacy about a man who said, "When you have done it unto the least of these, you have done it unto me. That he who is greatest, let him serve." That said of any man or person who would harm a child, that it would be better for a millstone to be cast about their neck and they be cast into the depths of the sea. And that this was the man that they claimed, that Paula White and the Christian pastors among the evangelical Christians in this country and others have been saying for a decade now, that this man, that this Christ has his hand to the plow of the work that the MAGA movement is doing under the Donald Trump administrations. Now, I don't endorse politicians. I don't endorse political parties. And frankly, I never tell anyone this story without taking a moment to hesitate before finishing it to say most of these deaths so far happened during the Biden administration. Now, that's not to say that Joe Biden and the Democrats didn't try to change it. They did try. They did not succeed. History alone, I think, will show whether they tried hard enough. This is not about how you vote. Vote however you want. But I posted this Cora Horror post just earlier this week where I said, look, vote how you want, but know what the hell you are voting for. By the time this policy is 10 years old, it will have killed as many Americans with hunger as died in Hiroshima under the atom bomb. An atom bomb dropped on our own countrymen for the crime of being poor. How do we, I ask Paula White and these Christian pastors, how are we supposed to endorse or believe in a Christ who kills? A Christ who is killing Americans right now with hunger, and not just adults, and not just people of color, and not just seniors. If this is what it takes to bring up our awareness, may I remind you that predominantly the people who are dying of hunger in this country, the majority of them are white people, poor whites. They are a group that gets overlooked because, of course, they have some privilege. That doesn't mean that they don't go hungry. It doesn't mean that they don't need food. It doesn't mean that they don't need water. Certainly not most of them are atheists. They must be Christians and Jews and Muslims. Sure. This affects all of us. This affects all of us. So the time has come for atheists and agnostics and our allies, anybody who will join forces with us, to join hands together and say, if the government is going to sell us that it is God's will, and there is a White House position right now held by Paula White, appointed by Donald Trump, his personal pastor, to sell all of us that his work and the work of the MAGA Republicans, and again, I'm not saying this is the work of one party or even one man. I don't know that Donald Trump knows how many people his policies have killed. But it's been going on because they introduced this policy in 2017. And then when Democrats and Republicans fought since then to make some common sense change here and make something better happen, the MAGA Republicans in government stood in lockstep to prevent them from changing it. And as long as good men, quote unquote, do nothing, this is going to continue to accelerate. By 2028, this will be an atomic bomb that killed more Americans than any other policy in the history of this country. Do we just sit by? Do we all just stand by? And certainly, I must ask, if we do nothing, what happens? If we do nothing, what does it mean? Let me show you something. I just recorded this today. And again, this is not my video. It's from a movie. One of my favorite movies is Valkyrie from the year 2008. You know this movie? It's a true story about a conspiracy inside the German government to take out Adolf Hitler. And there's a great conversation that happens, a whispered conversation. I'm going to try and show it to you now. Last time we did this, we got shut down. So just be cool. If we drop the live stream, I'll come back on. But I really want you to see it. I like Tom Cruise fine, but I like Kenneth Branagh a lot more. But this I'm about to show you, Kenneth Branagh is only a part of why I love this clip and I love this movie. So let me see if I can pull it up here.
How are we going to deal with Goebbels, him? Those men are confusing respect with popularity. The army swore an oath that won't just die with Hitler. What are you going to do? How are we going to deal with Goebbels, Himmler, the SS? They will wipe you out.
It doesn't matter. It only matters that we act now, before we lose the war. Otherwise, this will always be Hitler's Germany. And we have to show the world that not all of us were like him.
That is not enough for me.
Cool. That's a real conversation. That man's name was Henning von Tresco, and he really said that. In fact, he's the guy who recruited Klaus von Stauffenberg, the other guy, played by Tom Cruise, into this conspiracy to get Hitler. And he would say this to people. And the fuller quote I actually got here is interesting. Both of these men, part of the reason why they were selected was that for this Operation Valkyrie was that both of these men came from old German families that had decades of noble blood and everything that the Nazis believed was superior made the master race in their history. And both of them were deeply conflicted, as many Germans were, that what the regime, what the Reich had proven to be was not what they had thought, what they had been sold before the Reich came to power. That once the regime was in power, it was shocking how swiftly they had acted and how they had managed to gain control of information so that ordinary people didn't know what they were up to. As long as they can control the information, they can get away with a massacre. Most people in Germany most people in the world who learned about the Holocaust later were stunned by it, startled by it. To this day, there are people who don't believe it really happened, but it did. We have the footage, we have the facilities. Today, you can go and tour these facilities. I talked about this once before. One of my, some of my favorite artists in history, I'm a painter, amateur, painted in a color called Prussian blue. And Prussian blue was once called Berlin blue. It was invented in Berlin by a man who was connected actually to the whole Frankenstein thing, actually, Mary Shelley and all that. It's weird. It's a weird, interesting story. The process of making this paint that was very popular. You've heard of artists' blue period, how some artists have had like Picasso, for example, had a blue period, and they would paint in blue. Traditionally, blue was the most expensive paint to paint with because it was made from a gemstone that was mainly mined in Afghanistan. And so as political situations around Afghanistan especially back in the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th centuries, as things would get politically heated over there or war would break out and etc., access to this gemstone at one point actually made it was so difficult to get that this color, the traditional blue, is called it's been called like French blue, Parisian blue, etc. Oh gosh, aquamarine blue. This color blue traditionally became at one point in the 19th century actually became more expensive than gold per ounce. By weight, it was more expensive than gold. So when they accidentally discovered that you could make this blue tint that was rich, beautiful, and powerful, and that could be made artificially, that was discovered accidentally when they were trying to make a different tint out of soil that had been tainted with blood, with like ox blood or something. It was a cattle blood. But the oxidation process of making this chemical, it produced this blue color that was relatively cheap. If you go to the gas chambers in Poland, where the final solution against the Jews was carried out, you can look to the wall still today and see Prussian blue smeared along the wall. Because in the process of creating Prussian blue, it emitted a gas that was airborne cyanide that was then taken by scientists in Germany and perfected into a weapon that they could seal into a can. And without any more energy than just opening up a can and exposing it to the air, they would like puncture 2 holes in it, And just by taking it and puncturing these holes and exposing it to the air, it would release cyanide, aerosolized cyanide into the air. And that's what they used. Now, they'd invented it as a weapon to use in the battlefield against enemies in combat. But it blew instantly all over the place in such a way that they realized this was not an effective weapon. You're as likely to kill civilians or as you're likely as to kill your own soldiers as the enemy. So instead, they put it into showers and used it to kill prisoners, slaves, people who were considered inferior. When a government can turn on its own people because they control the narrative of what ordinary citizens learn about what they're doing and just get away with it, they will. That's how it happens. And you can call me Orwellian if you like, but the numbers are there. You can look them up. How many Americans died of hunger in 2018? Put it into Google. It'll give you a true answer. 2019, do it again. 2020, do it again. 2020 is a little hard to tell because of comorbidity with the pandemic, but 2021, 2022, 2025, you look up 2025, which we are well past now, and it will tell you, we don't know yet. The government's keeping those numbers back now so that we won't find out. What are we supposed to do about a Christ that kills? If a Christ that kills becomes the mammon that Christians are determined to worship, what does it take to fight back? I'm Joe. I'm the founder of the Church of Korihor, those of you, especially in the future, who don't know. We are one small group that's doing our part to try and fight back. No, we're not big church like the Mormon Church, who are having their conference this weekend and inaugurating their new prophet. Great, good for them. No, we don't have money like the Catholic charities, which are shrouded in controversy right now. No, we don't have millions of members all over the world. Got a handful of people, mainly here in the United States, but also in other countries, who gather together regularly to spiritually grow. And part of that spiritual growth is about making lives worth living. Our lives, other people's lives. After all, why save anyone's life if life is not worth living? The best philosophers in history have struggled with this question. You'll hear people say, oh, what's the meaning of life? Life does not inherently have meaning. Life cannot be, from a philosophical basis, argued necessarily in a logical and compelling way to be good for you, seeing as far as we can tell, the dead have no complaints, and the living have all the problems. The reason why we feel like life is worth living, I would put to you, is purely feeling. In every moment, looking around ourselves and saying, how do I feel? And every year in this country, another pandemic that's not getting enough attention paid to it, more and more of our countrymen are failing in that feeling. Do they fail us or do we fail them? I put to you that this society can do better, that our people can do better. And that if our Christian ministers and pastors are going to preach us hate and purposefulness that results in the hateful deaths of our fellow Americans for no other crime than just being poor, we have put too much faith in their Christ. We've put too much faith in their mammon. And the time has come where we must kill their God before he kills us. And the way we can do it is by feeding people who are hungry, by putting blankets around people who are cold. I said before, I say again, when people ask me about the theology of a godless church, the Godless Church of Korihor, I say it goes like this. There are people who are cold. If there are gods who could have prevented that, fuck them. Get a blanket and let's go. When people go to korihor.org, there's a button there that lets you go, that says give. You can also go there, if you want to use your fingers on your keyboard instead, to korihor.org/give. Every dollar donated through the form on that page goes out to the streets to feed people who are unsheltered. Every item purchased on our Amazon list that's published on that page goes to people in need. And every item received at the address in St. George, Utah, that's published on that page goes to helping people in southern Utah, especially immigrants whose families are being detained or deported. People in Salt Lake, Las Vegas, Nevada, and southern Utah who are sleeping rough on the streets. And goes to Colorado City to an organization we partner with called Cherish Families, where Mormon fundamentalist, Mormon polygamist families have been abandoned by Warren Jeffs and his community and his priesthood, the men of these Mormon polygamist families, goes to the wives and children that were abandoned by those men so that they wouldn't have to go to prison with Warren Jeffs for the rest of their lives. This is what it means to be conscious in my life, I have never been so conscious of suffering in the world as I have been since I became an atheist. Because being an atheist is not about rebelling against God. Being an atheist for me, being agnostic, has been about being honest with myself and being honest with others about what the problems in this world really are and not pretending like they aren't there. I understand anybody who wants to feel like their life is meaningful. I get it. If you want to believe that God is looking out for you, that God sent you here for a purpose, there's a reason why people, when you talk about somebody who is prideful or narcissistic, thank you, Mary Beth. When prideful and or narcissistic, what do they say about that guy? Especially men. They say he thinks he's God's gift to the world. Sometimes people who believe in God, often people who believe in God, they do that. They actually, we tend to do this, believe that we are sent to the earth for a purpose that wouldn't have been done, that wouldn't have happened if we weren't sent by God to the world. If not by God, then by something. And if you're sent before you are born into the world by something, well, by definition, that thing would have to be God, whatever you call that to be. But there is no God. We keep running into this problem. And if there is a God, the problem of evil places a conundrum that says, well, we obviously must not know what God is, because the four great making properties of God that make God great supposedly are that he is omnipotent or all powerful, omnibenevolent or all good, and also omnipresent and omniscient. But those two are very key here. What every atheist knows and every apologist knows as the argument from evil, which is that there's evil in the world, real evil. And if God exists, he is either impotent or cruel to allow it to happen. And if God is impotent or cruel, then he is not omnipotent and all good, omnibenevolent. And if he lacks those two great making properties of what supposedly makes God God, then God is not God. And an omnipotent God who supposedly can do anything, the one thing all theologians agree, the one thing that an omnipotent God cannot do, is to not be God. And so when you have a God who obviously is not all powerful and is obviously not all good, or both, then what you're left with is the conclusion that there is no God. Now, maybe we're wrong. Maybe all the world's theologians are wrong. That wouldn't be a surprise. They are about most things. But all that tells me is that there is so much more responsibility on those of us who look around us at the world that really exists or appears to do and say, who is here? If there is no God, if there is no Christ, as Korah Horror, the fictional character, legend, godless legend in the Book of Mormon said, if there be no Christ and if there be no God, then what remains? It's you and me. That guy Trisco, Henning von Trisco, said this: "It is almost certain that we will fail. But how will future history judge the German people if not even a handful of men had the courage to put an end to that criminal? We have to show the world that not all of us were like him. Otherwise, this will always be Hitler's Germany. We deconstruct so many things in this modern age. Many of us, like myself, have deconstructed God and religion. In the process, most of us have also, to some degree, deconstructed patriotism. And we are definitely, on a mass scale, especially our beloved sisters, are deconstructing patriarchy and discovering how a system that has privileged men has made the world dangerous for women, for children, and for non-binary people, for queer people and gay people, for people of color. There is no side, there is no corner of this world where people were not hurt, have not been hurt by patriarchy and toxic masculinity. And we are only beginning to deconstruct it so we can heal and become better people. It's noble work and it's hard. But we are creating new ways to make it happen. I put to you that we can do it in small moments, in small acts, even if it's giving $1 or $5. You can send a can of chili or soup, pack of dry foods, beans, rice, to the Church of Korihor. I assure you, none of that goes into my pantry. I don't technically have a pantry right now. It all goes out to the street. It all goes out to people in need. This is what Christians were supposed to be doing. Instead, they're putting their hands on the MAGA politicians and claiming their work as Christ's work. We can't trust them. This is how it became clear that that the Christians are no longer conscious. If Christ is the Christ that we read in the Bible, he's not my favorite, but that's not who they worship anymore. At least not the evangelical Christians in the large part, not the MAGA Christians, so-called. They've turned their worship to mammon, and long ago. The time has come for people of conscience to act. I'm not calling for violence against anyone. In fact, I'm going to tell you now, I abhor political violence. And I see no reason why we are in a position now where anybody should feel threatened for any reason. There's enough death going on in this country right now. But we have to kill God. And the way to do that is for people who don't believe in God, or at least kill the violent God, kill the God who kills our brothers and sisters for being poor. All that it takes is for us to do small things. Every day, a small thing. The Church of Korihor, we're developing an app where people will be able to spend their social media time doing social media that has no ads for selling you anything or for collecting your information, and where we go to extra lengths to ensure privacy of the people and to ensure that no harm is coming to children or other vulnerable people. And that's the Korihor app. People can learn more about it at korihor.app or at korihor.org. We're going to be publishing some more information through our blog, etc., on the development of this app. And of course, people can donate to the Church of Korihor at korihor.org. korahor.org/donate. That form is not the form that goes out to the streets. If you want to support us in our work in making sure that this work continues, we need help desperately, actually. We're in a pretty bad situation. Now I don't take a salary from that. I myself donate to the Church of Korahor so that we can continue to do this work. As a matter of fact, I think I probably donate more than anybody so far. Somebody beat me. I would love it. I would love it. We can really do this. And if we don't, we sure as hell can't wait for the Christians to do it. I want to share again with you guys, and then I'm going to go take my daughter to see Project Hail Mary. I'm excited about it. I haven't seen my kids in a month, so it's a good time for me to spend some time with my daughter now before my son and I soon are going to move to Virginia, where we're starting out the Eastern chapter of the Church of Korahor out there. So I'm going to spend some time with Scarlett while I can. And then I'm headed back down to St. George, where I'm going to go back to doing the work in Colorado City and in Las Vegas that we started before I left out to Virginia, started working out there. I keep going. It's frustrating. It's slow. And oftentimes I feel powerless. I want to play for you a hymn that I've listened to probably a dozen times since I created it on Friday. Those of you who were here for our Friday, our Giving Friday, some of you were able to hear it. I really want to share it with you. So I hope that it touches your heart and that you lift up your heart and do something today for you that reminds you that if you care about this, even if you can't give $1, even if you can't get a blanket and bring it, even if you do nothing else today, if you just take a moment and care, it's a start. It's a moment where you did a thing that makes you want to be alive. And if you can bring yourself to do one thing that makes you feel like you are a good person who would do more if you could, it'll make a difference if you give it time. And even if it's just about making yourself feel that there's something worthwhile you're doing, it's enough. It's better than every theologian in history. It's better than any preacher, any prophet. I put to you, it's better than Jesus himself. Never gave us anything like that, whoever this Jesus character is. This is the best gospel I know. Life can be worth living if we look to each other and say there are no gods to take care of us. So I'm here for you. Be here for me. Amen. This is Look Up, which is now on korahor.org/hymns. I'll see you guys on Wednesday for Hellfire Agency. Flash bright, my friends.
Up here, looking down on you, I wish you could see our oasis so blue. We were all born here, unsure what that petty borders and wars don't mean a damn thing. A hateful world can feel so crowded now that I'm up here all alone. I wish you all could see you've forgotten your home. Look up, these stars are just the sea. Look up, stay the course with me. Look up, every river, every creature running wild, born our sacred mother's child. This place is our only home. Look up, you are not alone. Lights below, can you look above? Every single heart yearns to be loved. One thin blue skin is the breath of every life. Every tree breathes with us through the lonely night. If you were looking down beside me, would you forget the hand that feeds you? Know that no moment is wasted, that we carry each other through. Look up, these stars are just the sea. Look up, stay the course with me. Look up, every river, every creature running wild, born our sacred mother's child. This place is our only home. Look up, you are not alone. There is no them, there's only us. It's only this, it was always thus. We share this air, we share this sky, the world within. We are the reason why. Look up, these stars are just the sea. Look up, stay the course with me. Look up, every river, every creature running wild, born our sacred mother's child. This place is our